WESN.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Talking Point here on WESN, your content capital. Sean Michael Small here. My co-host, Mr. Gitan Shah, he will be joining us soon. He's on assignment, but it's a very short-term, quick assignment. He will be here not too long into the show. And while today is Wednesday, and normally we do have Karen on Wednesdays, it's a bit different this week. We're going to have, instead, our usual Friday contributor on Wednesday. General John Bates will be joining us to speak about 50 years of CARICOM, of the Caribbean community. However, before we get into that, as always, let's kick things off today with our daily review. And the first story that we have this morning it's an interesting one. It's interesting because it was one of the key issues that, well, my predecessor dealt with. Karen spoke on the show that preceded Talking Point quite a bit, and it was during the height of COVID. We also, well, not necessarily height, but there were a lot of questions with regards to migrants and asylum seekers and their status and the whole host of diplomatic negotiations or relations with, in particular, Venezuela. TNT has, you could say, economic migrants from a lot of places. Jamaica, parts of Africa, parts of South America, Venezuela, Colombia, Guyana. But of course at that time, and even now, one could argue that Venezuela is the largest source of economic migrants / asylum seekers. It all depends on how you interpret what's going on in Venezuela. And there was a case where the state, I believe, was seeking to deport one such individual because, again, their status was not entirely clear or determined. It seems that the state was very careful, the Prime Minister was very careful with regards to how he labeled the migrants or asylum seekers, refugees, and because at the time their status mattered, right? An economic migrant, you could deport quite easily. But for most of the world, a refugee, on the other hand, that's not somebody who you should just be able to deport until now. And High Court Judge Frank C. Prasad on Tuesday, well, he basically made a declaration on the issue and said that while we signed, I believe, the 1951 UN Refugee Convention, the principles of non-refoulement don't apply to TNT as they are not incorporated into domestic law. Which means that currently we can deport just about anybody, it seems. And then, of course, lies the question, to what extent now, what would be the determining factor? What would be the laws that would then allow us for deportation? Because would they be considered illegal immigrants? Could we just deport them straight off on that basis? Or would there need to be something more? Because normally asylum seekers, refugees, they get caught up in that debate, in that conversation with illegal migrants, those who cross the border illegally, looking for work. And there's that gray area, right? Because to what extent now are you fleeing some sort of persecution? Financial hardship in and of itself is not necessarily enough to define you as an asylum seeker, because you're not fleeing someone persecuting you, you're just fleeing a bad situation. It sounds harsh, it's a hard reality, but it is what it is. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that this situation is over, because at least one activist has already said that they'll be looking to take this case further if necessary. The Privy Council was mentioned. And it would be interesting to see, what the Court of Appeal would say, what the Privy Council will say. But it's also interesting because at the end of the day, technically speaking, how would we as a nation now want to be in the international community? To what extent is this going to send a message now to the rest of the world that, hey, we're not really going to take on this 1951 convention for refugees? And perhaps we never really thought that we would have to deal with refugees. I mean, there are other places to seek political asylum. Why would you seek political asylum in TNT? Now the issue's being forced. Do we try to put things in place? Because the rest of the world will be looking on and saying, no, you all seem to not really care much about asylum seekers in TNT. What would that mean now for our own migrants and how they're treated? Might mean nothing at all. Might continue business as usual. Our passport apparently is one of the better passports in the world, believe it or not, despite the fact that we do need a visa to go to America and so forth. It might also knock us a little bit with regards to our standings in the international community, which later on in the show we'll get into how that is a bit, recently more important. It's being played out more. There's a lot of issues that we have to, be responsible for and work on. But folks, we need to take a break. When we come back, hopefully I'll be able to... We're not taking a break?
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
The best for your baby is at thebesttoys.com. From the best strollers, car seats, baby carriers, high chairs, booster seats, rockers, jumpers and bouncers, walkers, baby blankets, feeding accessories, bathtubs. Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship McLean. Shop online now at thebesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 332-BABY. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit? what is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive, it is not rehabilitative.
We the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole, it's for all of us in public.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com. Welcome back to Talking About, ladies and gentlemen. And one of the things that TNT does have to look out for now in the international space is what's going on with our community member. And that is, of course, Haiti, part of the Caribbean, a former colonial island. It's had to face far greater challenges than anything that our twin island republic has had to face. And while, yes, we know violence is over there, I do wonder if all of us are quite aware just how bad it is. So we spoke about it a bit yesterday, and it'll probably come up again as a major issue that CARICOM has to answer some hard questions for. But let's take a look about what's recently been going on in Haiti with today's Cue This.
We travel in heavily armored vehicles across Port-au-Prince, Haiti. We're headed to one of the most dangerous places in the world right now. So right now we're going into Cité Soleil. This is an area entirely controlled by armed groups. In fact, the only reason we can get in is because one of these gangs has given us permission to enter, but they've told us we're not allowed to film as we enter the neighborhood because they don't want to show their enemies, as they call it, what they're doing. As we approach the first checkpoint, the trash burning ahead of us, and the signal comes. Yeah, we have to put down the, okay, there, no, let's stop filming. Let's stop filming. Stop filming, yeah. We take their demands seriously. We're warned that one wrong move could change everything. This is what life is now like in Haiti. Not far from the US, a 90-minute flight. But here in Haiti, everyone tells us the violence is exploding. Armed groups now controlling at least 80% of the capital, fighting over territory. For 2 years now, there's been no elected government here. And nowhere is more desperate, more dangerous than this neighborhood, Cité Soleil. We arrive at a school with the World Food Program and their partner hands together to deliver food here. The violence, the control over supplies coming in has left many children with little or no food. We witness a rare scene, this small haven for the children. They go to class. But the school walls cannot protect them from what's happening on the outside. They are the innocent victims. Evans was born and raised here and now risks his own life to get food to the children. He takes us to a classroom caught in the crossfire. In here. Yep. So this is damage from a stray bullet here that came in from the street. I mean, you can see. I mean, that's the violence.
That's the violence.
And there's kids everywhere right around here.
Sometimes you find some bullets on the yard, in the classroom.
It's terrifying.
It is.
That terror is everywhere in Cité Soleil. Outside the school, this woman shows us the bullet holes in her door. When the violence gets bad enough, sometimes this neighborhood can be completely cut off from the outside world for weeks at a time. That means no drinking water coming in, no food, no trash pickup. Hundreds of people have died here in this neighborhood as a result over the last few months. What's happening here is the definition of a humanitarian crisis. Tonight, the UN says this crisis, the hunger here, is worsening. They are now approaching famine in parts of Haiti. 4.9 million people here are food insecure, half the country unable to find enough food. And nowhere else is the cruelty of hunger more evident than in this hospital. Mothers bringing in their malnourished children. No jobs, high inflation, and soaring violence means they can't feed their kids. We meet Paulette here. She lost her teenage son to the fighting, and today she's here with her youngest. Marvin's is 4 years old. So a nurse just weighed Marvin's here using this scale. He's about 9 kilos or 20 pounds. He's 4 years old, and yet he weighs the exact same amount as my son, who's only 10 months old. Paulette fears she can't care for her son. Today, considering giving little Marvin's up for adoption, she hopes to give him a chance. While back in that school where bullets pierced the walls, the children line up for a meal, 600 of them today alone. Bonjour. Then it's back to the classroom to eat. The spoon's too big for the children's little hands as they eat everything on their plates. A break from the bullets, eating their beans and Haitian rice, and for now, their bellies are full. One small victory in this urgent effort to help the children, which is rarely guaranteed.
Those plates with food on them, and we just have to get more food to the children in need there. Matt Rivers joins us now from Haiti. Matt, just incredible reporting. And I know the UN is now calling for more than $700 million in humanitarian aid. We saw the children there in need, and I know the calls for that help have gone largely unanswered.
Yeah, they say that that money, David, is desperately needed from UN member states, but so far that appeal only 13% funded. They are hundreds of millions of dollars short of their goal. And WFP says if that money doesn't arrive here, the sprawling crisis here in Haiti, it only gets worse. And if any of our viewers would like to individually donate, they can go to WFPUSA.org/ABC Haiti.
And that, of course, good to see ABC News. The situation in Haiti is, in some ways, more worrisome than I initially thought. Because I'm not entirely sure what authorities they have left in Haiti, and then, therefore, who the international community would speak to. Because apparently they have not had elections for 2 years. They don't have anyone from the national level to the local government level, at least according to one report. So what authority is there if we wanted to have further aid? Because just sending resources, food, money, potentially is not going to solve the problem. Now, it'll help, of course, but they know that to transport foodstuffs, at the minimum, they would have to pay tolls to pass it through the various gang territories. That's happened already for I believe, one food charity. And then they have to be careful that in the process of paying these tolls, they don't get robbed of the money that they have. Or the food, as I pointed out yesterday, what happened in Somalia during that whole situation in the late 90s, where they had a civil war, and international aid was more or less just seen as another resource for the local warlords to fight over. The same thing, more or less, could happen with the local gangs, especially if there's nobody willing to stop them. Now, there is some pushback to the gang violence, and that gives us the flip side of the situation, and potentially shows just how far broken down Haiti has become with regards to the rules and structure of society. Because I have seen some clips of, well, there's a movement, Wakale, and they give out machetes to everybody. And the idea is the community will fight back against the gangs. The problem is when the community is proactive and kills people accused of being gang members. And to what extent now is it vigilante justice? And have they actually, one, killed a gang member, and two, killed somebody that did something to warrant being executed by a mob? So you have mob justice, you have vigilante justice. And of course this is exactly why, Keaton cautions from vigilantism in TNT. Not only, of course, now, when the mob gets riled up, potentially, could they be putting themselves at risk for retaliation from the gangs? But you might be attacking innocent people, killing innocent people. There was one report where a young lady who seemed as though she herself needed serious help for her and her newborn with nutrition. Their food security was in serious doubt. She has a newborn, right? Well, the father died months ago. A mob came, accused him of being a gang member, and they killed him. And they thought, well, yes, the community will band together to fight the gangs, only to then have the community turn on them. And she lost her husband at a time when safety and security is near non-existent. She was probably, I believe, pregnant at the time. Now she's on her own. It's a harsh or stark example, it's an extreme example, but it's an example of why vigilantism is a dangerous thing, but also it shows just how far things have gone in Haiti now, where it seems as though no one really is in control in any significant way. And it makes me think, more so than even yesterday, and hopefully when I'm joined by my compatriots, we could have that discussion, that Haiti requires some kind of military intervention. And I hesitate that because the controversy of the example aside, Iraq did show that the Western world is not necessarily prepared to rebuild a country. The unfortunate thing is Haiti needs work to be done, whether we want to or not. There's no alternative, it seems. We can't just leave it alone. But the mission, I don't know, really and truly, if we are equipped with the know-how to truly see to that mission. But the flip side is, I don't think we could leave it alone and again, have that be a source for illegal arms to flow into the region. All right, I believe we're taking our next break. When we come back, we'll be getting into more topics, including, of course, CARICOM, 50 years of a Caribbean community this year. CARICOM seems to be stronger than ever, but how effective is it really? Stay tuned to Talking Point on WSN. We'll be right back.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
The best birthday gifts are at dbesttoys.com. Shop for the best brands you love at the best prices. Like VTech, Leapfrog, Fisher-Price, Play-Doh, Hot Wheels, Barbie, Cocomelon, LOL, Baby Alive, Crayola. Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship MacBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 32DBEST to order. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
Coming up on Nicole Larson Live.
It was in 2018 where something happened.
I got a call. It was the third day. He said, let me tell you what you're going to hear tomorrow. Tomorrow you're going to hear that they have found him. He has floated to the top. He would be decomposed. He would be smelling awful. And I'm listening to him on the phone because he is just giving me the cold, hard facts.
Even though it takes time, time alone will not heal. You cannot heal what you do not acknowledge.
The unconscious socializing is what we need to check, because I was just doing it to avoid being home. I don't want to be in the bedroom because it's not the same anymore.
You can be happy, hurting, and healing all at the same time.
I choose to have gratitude. My soul is safe with Christ. I choose to be, yeah, the grateful one.
An encore of Nicole Larson Live, living in victory every day. Airing on WESN, the content capital, on Sunday, July 2nd at 8 p.m. Don't you miss it.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m. only on WESN, Content Capital.
Welcome back to Talking Point, folks, and of course, as promised, packed house here. 50 years of CARICOM, 50 years of a Caribbean community. Keaton Shaw, morning.
I thought he was going to say 50 years of Keaton Shaw. It feels that way, doesn't it? Hello, Sean. Hello, Janelle.
Hi, guys. Good morning.
Janelle John Bates.
Hi, good morning.
So, I mean, let's just dive straight into it. CARICOM, yes, first of all, 50 years. Yes. Just what does it mean to have the community for 50 years? What has CARICOM meant to the Caribbean, or at least its members?
CARICOM is actually essential and crucial for the development of the Caribbean as a whole, as to where we are right now. I mean, in my opinion, a lot more needs to be done. But the great thing is that has been acknowledged by all members of CARICOM, that a lot more needs to be done. But it has been substantial in terms of the development. Regional integration has allowed for free movement. Issues with impasse, that was actually alluded to on Monday. When we were there, regional travel obviously need to be taken a look at. But regional security, regional stability, that obviously has all been positively impacted on by CARICOM and CARICOM member states. Camaraderie in times of situations such as the eruption of the volcano St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And then even in instances with our COVID response and CARFA, of course, that was all part of CARICOM's initiative. We could have some criticisms, such as CSME, but to be very honest with you, having, I suppose, one of the oldest multilateral organizations in the world is something to certainly be proud of, and what's to come, I'm excited for, as long as we stay focused on it.
Yeah. So, right, emergencies make sense, right? St. Vincent volcano goes and community rallies, right? Now, technically, there have been situations in Haiti before, the community has rallied before. Yes. This one seems to be a little bit, but
we need to rally a little longer.
A little longer, and a little more?
And yes, in the opening, actually, of the 50th anniversary of CARICOM, Keaton alluded to the fact we were both there. And the UN Secretary General actually referenced, I believe it was him reference rally around the West Indies.
Yes.
And I think that was a very critical reference because it's something we need to keep doing. Rallying is not a one-off event. You need to keep doing it. So we need to keep supporting Haiti. And what I really appreciated was every single person that spoke mentioned Haiti and the situation there and that we need to support Haiti going forward and what will be done to continue that regional support of Haiti.
No, okay, fair enough. And that's the obvious issue that in some ways it's a very difficult issue, but in other ways it has some obvious things to do, right? To try some basic steps that, okay, at least we know we could do that. Now with CARICOM outside of the Haiti situation, more often than not, international communities do have this stumbling block of, well, there's what's best for the community and there's what's best for me. And a lot of my country,
yes.
And a lot of nations, you know, they still have to give some consideration to what's best for me.
Yes.
So with regards to CARICOM for everyday life, I guess you could say, you know, is it that we're in a good path? Because it's only recently I feel that the heads seem to be taking the community quite seriously as an instrument now to better the lives of the citizens, and not just, oh, in case of an emergency, break glass.
Right. Well, I mean, if I'm being completely honest, on a day-to-day basis, I don't think of CARICOM. I don't. And it was really with this 50th anniversary, I sat down and probed, really, Janelle, what does CARICOM mean to you? What has it benefited you? And actually it took a while for me to sit but then I realized the reason why it took a while for me to come up with anything is because what CARICOM has achieved is so integrated into our daily lives. So something we've all been through, CXC,
right,
Caribbean Examination Council. I wouldn't think about it because it's so natural being all that way under 50. To us, that's just life in the Caribbean. University of the West Indies, the free movement of individuals, the fact that we can go to any Caribbean island for 6 months, the fact that our passport says Caribbean community, these are things that are just so normal to me. I didn't really think about it. The things that are not so normal but are very critical, for example, with the COVID response, CARICOM was such a critical institution. So I think if we really think about it, CARICOM is very critical to our development and has aided all our lives in the Caribbean. And I agree with Keaton, we can go further. But I think, as you alluded to, the problem is going further would require the governments to give up some of their national sovereignty, which is something they don't want to do because, of course, one of the things governments are always concerned about is with staying in government, which would require them to focus on what their citizens want. And again, I don't know if you go out in the street and ask the man on the street, CARICOM, what do you think about it, its benefits? I don't know if that's something top of their mind, so it wouldn't be something top of the government initiative per se.
Kiran, I mean, there's also the economic factor. We benefit, I think, in Trinidad quite a lot because we export to the rest of CARICOM. But I don't know if really and truly CARICOM itself has been able to kind of figure out, oh, well, we do import stuff. I mean,
Jamaica,
famously,
we import a lot of stuff from
we import provisions from St. Vincent. That was one of the things that you kept marveling about. We were still getting stocks even with the volcano eruption. But have we really utilized that? Because the food security issue is just one of those things. We've spoken about this before. Is CARICOM really, do you think, going to be the answer for all of us?
CARICOM could be an answer. Whether or not it will be, that is totally up to the visions that each nation has. Because as you know, it's all members. And Janelle mentioned this as well. Sovereignty is absolutely key and important. Probably, perhaps, the most crucial reason as to why CARICOM is not fully where it should be, and even with regard to CSME. And I'll allude to an example. We see a situation now with Trinidad being part of CARICOM, but there is an issue with honey from Ghana coming to Trinidad. Because of the existing laws and legislative framework in Trinidad, does not allow for Guyanese honey to pass through Trinidad. So this is some of the areas that you could see being a huge block to further economic prosperity and development between nations and member states within CARICOM. And that's why I said it could be. It all depends. Sovereignty has always been an issue. I think in any multilateral agreement or any integrative movement, that's always going to be a huge issue, of which we have not totally defined and we have not totally resolved.
But
the other side of CARICOM as well is we're blessed in the sense that the Caribbean offers a diverse culture, ethnicity of people, you know, but that has also proven to be a stumbling block.
I was going to say, but in terms of, you know, the reason why the food security thing can be an issue is that actually we produce a lot of the same thing. We have honey here, Guyana's honey. Why should I allow Guyanese honey to come here when I have my own honey to export and promote in my country? So that's part of the problem, that we are in the same region. Our region geographically is not that diverse. For example, with the EU, they span such a greater expanse of land that something produced in one country may not be produced at all or grown in another country because it's not geographically possible. So we have those limitations as a Caribbean region.
I mean, but, there is a but to that though, and the big but is, you may be right. However, the other side of it is we do not necessarily produce enough, which is why such partnerships are key.
There's also the fact that food security now, how do you define food security? Because if I'm dependent on CARICOM, I'm still vulnerable. If something happens to CARICOM, now I'm back to square one. I am food insecure.
Because we're all in the hurricane, well, Trinidad a little below the hurricane belt, so something affecting one affects.
And if we specialize what we produce, then once that specialist goes down, that bill of goods just, you know, disappears for a while.
But what do we specialize in?
Well, no, what I mean to say, if we didn't all make honey.
No, I know, I'm just,
but
Trinidad,
Trinidad, I think we're one of the bigger producers in terms of manufactured goods. I don't know why chubby came to my mind. Because I knew when I lived in England, you can see chubby is international. So I'm thinking, I'm not so sure how much soft drinks the other countries produce.
Okay, we only have about a minute left, despite what that clock says. That clock is a little fast, so don't panic. But the last thing I want to say, obviously, one of the things that I've noticed, and I'm sure you all have as well, CARICOM's engagement, particularly with the US, of course, but with the international community in a whole, on energy security, on food security, and on, well, financial equality, I guess is one way to put it, right? They have those three
issues, pillars.
Well, no, but we actually set up committees with the states, right? Mia Motley, Dr. Keith Rowley, and I think it's Irfan Ali are heads of the, or the chief representatives. Is it that we now recognize the value of CARICOM and we're leveraging that at the international negotiation table? This is where we're going to really see CARICOM come to life.
I don't think it's only now. But I do think there is greater urgency. I mean, COVID-19 taught us a lot, so just bear that in mind. What has also impacted us is also the energy security and energy security globally. I mean, you heard the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines actually emphasizing that the situation with regards to U.S. Tariffs and restrictions, Venezuela, Nicaragua, Cuba, that is having an impact on CARICOM as well. So it's not necessarily new, but there is greater urgency, and that is what we're seeing taking place now.
Yes, well, Keith answered exactly what I was going to say. It's not a newly recognized thing. If it was so newly recognized, we wouldn't be at 50 years. It was recognized all the way back to 1973. But circumstances, especially in Trinidad, so maybe circumstances like affecting the bigger islands or the ones with the larger majority, like Trinidad, our energy situation has made it critical for our leaders to push this regional thing, because we realize we can't stand alone now. This insular vision does not work, especially when you are dependent on others for your prosperity. So I think it's not new, it's just more urgent.
And with that, I always like to point out the fact that Guyana has basically hit the jackpot, but they seem to be in lockstep with the rest of CARICOM. They're not like, oh, we're fine, you'll sort out yourselves. They are just as much pushing the communal agenda or needs of the community, I believe, as anybody else. And I'm somewhat grateful for that, because we've seen in other situations where, you know, the rich member could, you know, well, we'll lord it over you, or we'll go our own way and leave you to your devices. But
well, no need to get burned to learn from somebody else getting burned. They've seen what has happened, so it would only make sense to learn from the lessons.
That is absolutely true, because every nation will have its agenda, but to put it more plainly, Janelle is being very kind. Guyana could learn from Trinidad and Tobago, and I hope that
from our mistakes,
and they can.
Yes, that is a point that will. I mean, there's a lot of mistakes to learn from, not just here but around the world. But My lady, you have some important work to do.
Yes, I have some important work to do professionally, and also this is a very important day. Today is my husband's birthday. So I want to take this opportunity to wish him a very happy birthday, and I pray God allows you to see many, many more so that we can share this life, this journey together.
Well, happy birthday, Mr.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much for...
His name is Andre Bates, please.
Folks, thank you very much, Andre.
We have to take a break. Janelle has to run. Janelle has to run. We have to take a break. When we come back, I'll continue the discussion with Keaton. We'll have some more topics to get into here on Talking Point. Stay tuned.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
The best birthday gifts are at dbesttoys.com. Shop for the best brands you love at the best prices. Like VTech, Leapfrog, Fisher-Price, Play-Doh, Hot Wheels, Barbie, Cocomelon, LOL, Baby Alive, Crayola. Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship MacBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 32DBEST to order. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
Coming up on Nicole Larson Live. It was in 2018 where something happened.
I got a call. It was the third day. He said, let me tell you what you're going to hear tomorrow. Tomorrow you're going to hear that they have found him. He has floated to the top. He would be decomposed. He would be smelling awful. And I'm listening to him on the phone because he is just giving me the cold, hard facts.
Even though it takes time, time alone will not heal. You cannot heal what you do not acknowledge.
The unconscious socializing is what we need to check, because I was just doing it to avoid being home. I don't want to be in the bedroom because it's not the same anymore.
You can be happy, hurting, and healing all at the same time.
I choose to have gratitude. My soul is safe with Christ. I choose to be, yeah, the grateful one.
An encore of Nicole Larson Live, living in victory every day. Airing on WESN, the content capital, on Sunday, July 2nd at 8 p.m. Don't you miss it.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Welcome back to Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen, and some more topics to get into, some interesting discussions to have, one of which, of course, I have Keaton here still with me to have them, and one of which is the Law Association is basically saying keep important matters before the court, or keep matters before the court out of public debate. That's basically what they're saying, right? Because there's been some recent high-profile cases where, it made it in the public sphere, and to some extent the language got a bit colorful, right? But I'm wondering if the Law Association is reacting to how far the discourse went, or just the fact that it was happening at all. Because I do wonder, while I understand the Law Association saying, well, keep court matters out of political debate, the problem is, if it's a controversial topic that matters to the country, I don't know if on a practical level it can be kept out of the public discourse.
Sean, many times you hear politicians arguing, I cannot comment on that case, I will not comment on that case because it is before the courts. But then, on political platforms, they may choose to utilize such cases, though judgment has not been passed, as a way of obviously fueling the conversations, but also trying to gain political points, or the attraction amongst its supporters. It's all a theatre. I agree with the Law Association that we should not be using cases that are before the courts as part of any political debates. I mean, on a side note, my co-host and colleague mentioned that the language has been colourful. Yeah, during this particular campaign, and I know it happens almost every single election, but this one, I thought we would have learned from the past, but clearly we're just utilizing those tactics of old, the nasty language and the appalling arguments. But anyway, I agree with the Law Association. You know, any cases that are before the courts, judgment has not been passed, refrain from utilizing it on any political platform. You cannot stop public debate, and when I mean public debate, to narrow it down, conversations amongst citizenry, you can't stop that, but that is not going to affect anything. On a political platform, it'll have more of an impact. Even when we are debating on this program, we are very, very careful as to what we're saying, simply because we do not know all the facts. We are unaware of all the facts. So, you know, the Law Association has actually said something or done something good that I will say, yeah, well done, keep it up.
But the problem that at least you highlighted, so this is not to say the full scope of the issue, but the one example you highlighted was the fact that, well, politicians are inconsistent. In front of a press conference, they'll say, well, I can't speak on this, or if asked questions in Parliament, well, I can't speak on that because it's before the courts, but then they'll go to a rally and they'll talk around the issue, but they'll, you know, leak, to not use the phrase correctly, but they'll kind of, you know, give away some things, right, on a political rally where they're not being challenged, where they're free to say exactly what they want to say and not have any follow-up questions to push them further. And to me, if that's the case, then it's a situation where perhaps our political landscape just allows them to get away with too much, and we should address that aspect of it. The reason why I say that is, quite often, my issue is not enough is being said. And sometimes the whole, yes, I understand it's a case before the courts, I get it, right? Like the situation with the THA right now, there's an investigation. The police don't want to talk about the investigation. I understand that. But then now, there's certain things and there's certain information throughout the process where I think the nation, maybe deserves is not the right word, but it would be useful at times. So like when they have a shooting that involves police and there's questions, while you might not want to talk about the investigation, you know, depending if you could figure out what we could reasonably reveal so that the population could, you know, calm down because, you know, maybe it was justified, maybe it wasn't, whatever, but it doesn't look as though you're trying to hide something. And I think it's the same thing for politicians. You know, I'm not saying that they have to reveal everything, but look at the Nikon situation.
Wait,
you know,
hold on. Sorry to cut you in your discourse, but do you really think it's going to calm down the public?
Well, it depends. If you have something reasonable to present the public, then depending at times, it could help the situation. Obviously, like in the case with PC Gilks, right, where the officers were to blame for the situation, and if some more other cases, that also turned out to be the case. Revealing it is not going to calm down the situation, but my point is, what can you reveal? Reveal what you can so that the population has a less likelihood of thinking, oh, they're just covering it up.
And I believe that is what is often done. what could be revealed is revealed, which is why we will always have more questions than answers. The thing about it as well is even when, for example, when reports into the criminal justice system, we just saw Stanley John report, retired Justice Stanley John report. Are those reports going to be made public? We don't know, do we? So we would never know all the details. Or we're promised to receive, how do we put it, a synopsis, I suppose, a relevant synopsis. But we don't get all the information. Yet still, we are very much choosing of what it is that we want to speak about. Sometimes even actually, refraining from speaking about crucial pieces of any case. The point is, with regards to the public, could you actually be reasonable or release reasonable information to an unreasonable audience?
It depends on how, again, in marketing, they know this, you have to manage the expectations of your customers. So with politics, you should manage the expectations. And this is not to say you're spinning or lying. Managing the expectations, a lot of it comes down to being consistent and being truthful up front, so you're not giving them a set of promises that is completely, undeliverable, right? You promise what you can deliver so that their expectations are realistic. And it works in other ways. But I think one of the things is, yes, the thing is, you should have a communicator telling you what you need to say, right, to try to help a situation, and a lawyer telling you what you should not say because you have the perspective of, okay, we have to protect the legal matter, right?
They will always have...
those things, yes, those things, it's a push and pull, it's a compromise. But it seems as though this whole blanket thing of, no, well, if it's before the court, well, then we just can't say nothing. I don't think that works.
They will always have, and by the way, that's not always the case, because you always get information being fed to the public. But what could be released? What would lead to perjury? And this is why I'm saying that politicians need to be absolutely careful. And to be very honest with you, if you're going to speak about any case on a political platform, I would think that they are careful. I would think so. But I still think that they should refrain from using it as a way to getting political mileage.
Well, and that's a different statement.
They will always have, not really, not what I said at the beginning, but they will always have somebody advising them in terms of communication. I mean, these politicians don't write their speeches by themselves. There's always somebody advising them, there's always somebody doing it for them, right? I don't have to take the advice though, right? Advice is given, it's up to me whether or not I want to accept it. And in terms of the legal aspect, lawyers are always involved in the background.
I would just like to point out my last point. You see how long court matters take in this country? Once you hide behind an ongoing case, depending, that could mean a long time. That could be like a decade in some cases.
I guess in TNT, if you know the right people, it could work out for you, right?
All right, folks, we have to break for news on the hour. And of course, when we return, we'll open up the phone line here on Talking Point. So we'll be right back after this.
This is your WESN News on the Hour. Thank you for joining us. Here are the headlines. Prime Minister held bilateral talks with the Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs of China. Stephen Hart's return as head coach of the Soca Warriors. Rapper Jay-Z's mother marries Trini woman in New York. And internationally, Taliban ordered hair and beauty salons in Afghanistan to shut down. With the details, I'm Keaton Shaw. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley held bilateral discussions with Her Excellency Wah Chuying, Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs, for the People's Republic of China at Hyatt Regency in Trinidad and Tobago on Tuesday, 4th of July 2023. The meeting was attended by the Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, Senator Dr. Amory Brown, the Minister of Energy and Energy Industries, and Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, Stuart Young, His Excellency Fang Kui, Chinese Ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago, and Mr. Wang Wei, Deputy Director General of the Department of Latin America and Caribbean Affairs. Stephen Hart is set for a return as head coach of the Soca Warriors. Hart was appointed in 2013 and oversaw TNT's progress to the quarterfinals of the Gold Cup, but was fired in 2016 by the newly installed TTFA head, David John Williams. Hart sued the TTFA after his dismissal and won a $5 million judgment. His appointment comes as current head coach Angus Eve's tenure comes to an end, having exited the Gold Cup at the group stage for 2 consecutive tournaments. Gloria Carter, Jay-Z's mother, is married to a Trinidadian woman. Gloria said "I do" to her longtime partner Roxanne Wiltshire in a private wedding in New York on Sunday. Roxanne, a former Holy Name Convent student in Port of Spain, is claimed to be the youngest of 4 sisters. Roxanne, a mother of 2 daughters, received a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from John Jay College of Criminal Justice in New York and her master's degree in legal studies from the Rutgers School of Law in New York, New Jersey. In international news, the Taliban has ordered hair and beauty salons in Afghanistan to shut in the latest restrictions faced by women. The BBC report states a Vice and Virtue Ministry spokesman claims businesses had 1 month to comply, starting from the 2nd of July, when they were first informed of the move. Women's freedoms have steadily shrunk since the Taliban seized power in 2021. They have barred teenage girls and women from classrooms, gyms and parks, and most recently even banned them from working for the United Nations. And that's news of the hour here on WESN. I'm Keaton Shaw. Thank you for watching. We'll have more for you at the top of the hour.
As Kevin Hart would say, damn! Why we have so much minors out on the streets? There's an after-school program happening there.
Side women, don't give up. You know, you can become queen one day.
Those companies who are currently looking for their money that they deposited in the Silicon Valley Bank, it's not there. ChatGPT is basically the start of Terminator. Our relationship with the colonial powers is like a relationship with a little bit of abuse that people like to stay in. And we remember how that was. Put in $100 and later tonight, you'll get back $3,000. I promise you. I promise you not. Did you rent an accent while you were across there?
When you're in the proximity of Donald Trump, somehow you adopt his aura.
First of all, I thought the $200 would be more than enough. It's $200.
I's a goat farmer. 3 goats. Yeah, 3 goats and 1 cow. You know the name?
No, I don't.
Right, Messi, LeBron, and Cristiano Ronaldo. And the cow name Haaland.
I love Trinidad and Tobago, you know.
Welcome back to Talking Point, folks. Of course, now is the time we open up the phone lines. We want to hear from you, the viewer, so you could call in. The phone number should be up on your screen. We promise it's not as though we've abandoned the other phone line. We're working on trying to find alternatives. Ironically, this line, well, we've actually had 3 different phone numbers on Talking Point here. So we're trying to work it out here. The number 628-4578. Call in if you have a question. Tell us what you think. I know usually Karen will be here. She'll be joining us on Friday. But in the meantime, call us, ask us, or maybe you want to disagree with me on something again, like last week. Just remember to be succinct with your points and mute your television when you are on the air. Now,
I would just like to say, I have no problem with you disagreeing with me. Just please come with good arguments. Because I might talk nonsense sometimes, or some of you might think you talk nonsense all the time. I have no problem with that. The mere fact is I'm stimulating your mindset enough where you could agree or disagree. Come with good arguments. No problem with that. We have a caller on the line with us. Good morning, caller.
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Three quick points. First one was yesterday with Philip Alexander. Thanks for giving Philip some airtime. But Philip seems to think that his way is the way. He says he's not going to change his attitude, so I wish him well with that. Secondly, Haiti. You all discussed Haiti this morning. I hope Anthony Blinken, when he meets with CARICOM and our Prime Minister, not seeking help to have some kind of intervention in Haiti, because we did not cause any problems in Haiti. It's their intervention or their meddling in Haiti that has caused this island to be so in turmoil for all these years. The assassination of Jovenel Moïse, and I was so upset that CARICOM welcomed what's his name, the president,
Dr. Ariel Henry.
Ariel Henry. After with all those things hanging over his head. That is my second point. My third thing is CARICOM. CARICOM, in my estimation, has been I don't want to say a failure, because there are some good things in it, but CARICOM could, in 50 years, CARICOM should have been so much more than what it is right now. So much more. I have traveled extensively throughout CARICOM, and I can tell you, the people in CARICOM have more integration than the organization of CARICOM. Look, for instance, Janelle spoke about that. You see that issue she said, you could go to a Caribbean island for 6 months. That is not so, in practice, what happens is when you arrive in the island, they ask you how long you're going to, if it's vacation or business, and then they stamp your passport. If it's 3 days, if it's 5 days, if it's a week, that's a fact. The other thing is, we have not, in terms of food security, let me tell you something. Suriname is a great food producer. We're not talking about Guyana here. Suriname. You know where most of Suriname food goes? Most of Suriname food goes to Holland. Most of it. You'll be amazed of how many farms that they have in Suriname and how much produce every day goes on those KLM flights to Europe. And so we have to, that thing with CARICOM, we have to seriously look at it, because as Keaton said, nobody wants this. You see, the sovereignty issue is our problem. We have, the European Union looked at that little thing that we did down here and did something great with it. We don't want total integration with transportation, with work, with labor. We don't want the currency. So CARICOM, that thing that they had yesterday there, as far as I'm concerned, waste of time. Thank you all, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Well, there's an argument there too that we could include the CCJ, for to have CCJ here in TNT, not to, have the headquarters of the Caribbean Court of Justice located not too far from where our studios are, actually.
Right in the capital of TNT.
Still not our final court of appeal. I hear you loud and clear, caller. And in 50 years, a lot more could have been achieved. I think you said it a bit more frank than I did, but I can only hope that, and hope is all I have, that we can fully realize the true potential of CARICOM.
My only thing, caller, I'm not sold on the EU. I really am not.
I think he was using the EU as an example.
Well, of how further you could go.
Well, not necessarily that, but also with regards to sovereignty. I mean, Brexit is an example.
Of course. Yeah? So, and therein lies the problem. I think that the EU seems to be working. I don't necessarily think that it is working. Part of the problem is, you still have people inside the EU taking advantage of the EU. On one end, you have the nations that kind of run it, de facto, like Germany and France, right? They take advantage in certain ways. On the other hand, you have nations that, well, they kind of flaunt the rules and they don't necessarily give whatever contributions they have to give or adhere to whatever agreements they have to adhere to whenever they feel like it. I think nations might be like Poland, and I can't remember if Hungary is one of those nations. So there's a couple of them, right, where they're not so compliant. So yes, we could have had something like the EU. Would it have worked? Would it have worked better than what we have now? Would it have worked in any sort of way? I can't be entirely sure. But that question of getting off sovereignty, I don't think the EU has been able to solve it. And one could argue maybe they might be a bit more homogeneous than us. That is to say, the similarities of their cultures.
You mean homogeneous?
Homogeneous, sorry. Might have allowed better integration, but then Europe is so much bigger.
I wonder if CARICOM could, rather than the European Union, I wonder if CARICOM could take a lesson out of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, which is probably what they should be looking at. You take a look at the EC. Did you know the EC dollar is stronger than the TC dollar?
Yeah, you know how long?
Yeah, I know how long. I'm just saying. Did you know that?
Yeah, but I mean, the strength of currency, I think that in and of itself doesn't mean anything. The Japanese yen is not a strong currency by any stretch of the imagination, but Japan's economy is still a powerhouse of an economy. So, to me, yeah, the EC is nice and strong. That's cool.
But generally, the organization itself.
And how it functions.
And how it functions.
But the flip side is that's meant to treat with the needs of the Eastern Caribbean, Les Antilles Islands. To what extent now?
Whilst I recognize that, I'm talking about the full implementation and how it operates, how it works, is something that CARICOM could possibly examine.
Well, right, and now again, the sovereignty question comes back into play. Jamaica, Trinidad, Guyana, countries with large economies, larger populations, to what extent will that sort of level of integration now, going that next step, Because the cultural differences, while they don't seem to be that big, and they probably aren't, but they are still there. And the desires and the wants will be different because I have my immediate needs right in front of me. Just look at TNT. TNT is an example. We're a twin island republic, and at the end of the day, for better or worse, there is still a quarrel about resource allocation between Trinidad and Tobago, right? So agendas now with regards to, and arguments over the agenda of what's going on a national level, but within Tobago.
What do you make of, there was also great emphasis on the need for stronger collaboration on resolving the regional travel. I suppose you could refer to it as a crisis. Suggestions of a regional fast ferry, of which our Prime Minister is not necessarily in support of. And I think we need to clarify this, because sometimes headlines could be totally misleading. He is not in favor of a fast ferry. He's not against a regional ferry service.
Right. And here's the thing. Boat travel, I believe, could be more efficient, right? You give up speed of an aircraft, but it could be more efficient. I think I agree with him. He's looking at a monohull, and potentially, depending on how it works, because you have to ask, well, how many ferries, because how many routes do you want to service exactly? Is it just one big ferry going, up and down? Because then that's limited berths, right? You basically have to catch the ferry in a direction, and it might take, depending on the size and how far now we're going. If we're going from Guyana all the way to maybe Jamaica and then make the circuit back down, right? How many times could you do that within a week or 2 weeks or a month? Or do we go for multiple smaller boats, right, trying to do shorter routes? The thing with the fast ferry idea, or even a boat that size, whether it's a fast ferry or a slow boat, there are some people that can't deal with the seasickness just going from Trinidad to Tobago.
No, well then go on the plane then.
Much less.
No, well then you have the option of using.
But notice the price difference between just the inter-island ferry versus the air bridge, right? And that's the point. Airline travel, using aircraft to connect the region is going to be expensive, and we subsidize the fast ferry. We could use a slow boat We could, even if necessarily, subsidize that a lot easier than flights.
Is it going to be expensive, or is it only expensive because, copying a line from Sean, for all intents and purposes, Caribbean Airlines more or less has a monopoly on the market right now, in terms of intra-regional travel?
I think part of the problem is, with airline travel, demand, especially one-way demand, that's what the air bridge locally suffers from. So you have to ask, yes, we might get somebody that wants to go from island A to island B. We might get a lot of people. Do we have enough people that want to go from B back to A, right? And probably what's happening in Caribbean is you have a lot of one-way movement, but all over, potentially.
I think the issue, and I've gone to the airport many times. If I use the inter-island air bridge as an example, as you just have, I think the bigger issue is not necessarily the number of flights. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is just in my what I've seen, what I've witnessed. Because many times I've gone to the airport during the week, for example, and the amount of individuals that are getting through on standby, because the plane is empty.
This is going to Tobago, right?
We didn't book, even coming back from Tobago.
Right.
We didn't book. And the flight isn't necessarily booked up, but we're getting on standby. And the thing is, I think it's arguably during the week, it's more so to do with the scheduling and the timings of flights.
The other thing is during the week, demand is low. So there's three problems with the air bridge. One is the fact that demand tends to be one way. So say it's Easter vacation. At the start of Easter, there's a surge of more people wanting to go to Tobago, and then at the end of Easter wanting to leave Tobago, and you don't have a corresponding surge the other way. The other thing is that it's weekend travel on most weeks, right? So if it's not an August vacation, it's going to be on the weekend. So the weekday travel is going to be empty. You're going to have this excessive demand on the weekends, right? That again is going to look one way. So then, of course, now that's where the number of flights come in, because you have all the demand concentrated at limited time periods. The mistake would be to try to increase your daily activity or your sustained activity, right? And I think, the airline, what they should be looking at is to try to have temporary increases. But again, if it's one-way demand, and you're going to be mostly empty on one of the legs of the flight, it's really rough with regards to the aircraft and maintenance and fuel costs and just the maintenance costs as well, not just maintenance time, right? So it's a catch-22 because at this point, I don't think you could not have the air bridge, obviously, right? And to some extent, there will be situations that might require air travel.
Did you know that Virgin Atlantic has started an interregional flight service up the island using
but how many airlines?
Small Boeing airline. They're not even using a propeller plane. They're using the small Boeing airline.
How many airlines have regional airlines have more or less bus? Technically we've had two in Trinidad, I believe.
But do you think a company such as Virgin Atlantic is going to operate its jet in an interregional flight where it is not going to make money?
Well, here's the thing. They did operate flights to Tobago from Europe, right? And they've ended those flights and recommenced those flights, I believe, on more than one occasion. So it's not like a guaranteed, they calculate it and we're going to make this money, right? They see the potential, but will the potential be realized? Because, again, air travel is one of the weirdest things with regards to how you have to manage consumer demand to try to figure out where you get the flight. That's why you will have these weird ticket prices where, this ticket price is real expensive and this longer flight that should cost more is cheaper because it's part of a way to move the planes around the network, the logistics of operating your airline, and it's in low demand, so you have the ticket prices cheap just to try to get some revenue in and not make a total loss of that leg.
Anyway, moving forward now, ladies and gentlemen, again, the phone line is open. Phone line, I have to emphasize, phone line, just like connectivity issues, we have telephone issues. Good morning, caller on the line with us. Hello.
Gentlemen,
welcome back.
I'll take any opportunity, as the hiatus of the other callers, to call back in to join you all in this Sean, you mentioned that this regional fast ferry that the Prime Minister, talked about.
Yeah.
Do you all know there was a ferry service some years ago by a gentleman called Captain Thor Steinston. It was called Windward Lines. They left Trinidad on a Tuesday. They did Trinidad, Grenada, Trinidad, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Barbados. They would leave on a Tuesday, and back to Trinidad on a Tuesday. They carried passengers and they carried cargo. It was a very efficient service. It was a money-making service. It was the investors in that service were mainly Vincentians. There were a couple of Trinidadians with Captain Thor who had that ferry. Unfortunately, Captain Thor tried to buy a bigger ferry, and there were issues with that bigger ferry when he went to get it, and so there was a money issue, and that caused that ferry to crash. That service, but it was not for lack of business and lack of making a profit. So I still think a regional ferry service is excellent.
Colin, can I ask you? I mean, I'm aware of the Trinidad Grenada. That's the only one I was aware of. My brother was in Grenada for quite some time. That's why. But do you think that there is a greater need for private investment into such services?
Say that again, Keaton.
Do you think there is a need for greater private sector involvement, private investment into such services?
But Keaton, that ferry that I referenced, there was no government intervention in it. That's private.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my thing is, Keaton, within especially Trinidad and Tobago, our business sector are risk averse. They love to trade. They love to buy and sell. However, those type of ventures, even our banks in Trinidad and Tobago, I personally know guys who have ferries that run in St. Vincent and in Grenada. And those banks in those islands took the risk and lent them the money. But in Trinidad and Tobago, our banks do not do that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. And I think that's one of the issues within Trinidad and Tobago here, that we don't private sector, people who want to do those type of investments, because they're not traditional and because they're hard to, even if you do a business plan, for them to gauge whether or not they will recover their investment, they err on the side of caution, and they say no. But these things are profitable. I'm telling you, Captain Thor ran that I'm talking about a ferry that ran for over 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
A ferry service that ran for over 10 years.
He actually posted quite recently the concept again, and of course he has experience of.
He posted. I saw it online.
And I believe the video that he posted would have been of the ferry that he used to operate. Is that correct?
Yes. Let me say this, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
And why I could talk about this so passionately and so intimately. I was the one that fueled that ferry from Trinidad and Tobago. I fueled that ferry and sold him the lubricants on every voyage. I never had a problem for him to pay a check for what he needed. It was so heartbreaking to see that crash, because when you go up the island, they would move so many things from Trinidad: steel, galvanized, goods, and all the goods that would be manufactured would be going to they took cars, and on some occasions they would take cars up. There are other ferries. There's another one out of St. Vincent. They're not as big. They come to the CARICOM wharf. They do St. Lucia.
Yeah.
There are a couple of things that are running, and one of my fears is that when you see the Prime Minister and they're talking about these things, what they do is that they don't try to look at what is there and go and approach what is there and say, here we are willing to assist you all in getting this thing at a bigger scale.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to come with their friends and take over the service and mash it up. And that's my fear, because these are gentlemen. If you all would go to CARICOM Wharf, I would employ you all to go to CARICOM Wharf on a Wednesday and a Thursday and see the trade that goes on, see what is moved from Trinidad and Tobago to Guyana, as much money as Guyana have. You will see what goes to Guyana, what goes to Greendot, what goes to St. Vincent, what goes to St. Lucia, what goes to Barbados. It's still happening. I have taken people around there and let them see when they talk about CARICOM. That wharf is really a CARICOM wharf.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Cool, thank you very much.
Paul.
Thank you very much for sharing that information with us. Be very honest with you, that particular recent post I have not seen.
Yeah, this is on LinkedIn. I was actually looking up to just try to see what the actual ferry service that Mr. Torrenson was operating, and I think basically his idea goes in line with what the Prime Minister was saying. But I think, there's, like I said, there's more to it than that now. It's one thing to have one boat, or we're going to have more than one boat. How will the region be serviced? Maybe, one boat would be the most efficient way to do it. And it looks like both of them, the Prime Minister and Mr. Torrenson, is looking at a monohull, a slow ferry that could carry a significant amount of cargo and be serviceable and efficient. I think speed and luxury is not really what the ferry service should be about. We do still have air travel. It might not be as widespread as we would like it, right? But trying to get one of those fast ferries to go from Trinidad up the islands, that's not going to be pleasant.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for phone calls this morning. Thank you very much to our one caller from San Fernando for his contribution this morning. For sharing that information with us. You can catch us more for calls tomorrow from 9:05 a.m. With that being said, as we wrap up this morning's edition of Talking Point, did you know that July the 3rd was the hottest day ever on record?
It was?
The hottest day ever on record. And that being said, hottest day ever since records began, actually. Yeah. And the world has only actually gotten warmer since, so we could arguably say this has been the hottest day the world has ever experienced.
Not necessarily.
Because when the asteroid hit, the theory is dust blocked out the sun for so long and it got so cold and...
Right, but we don't know how warm it was before that. Yeah. We don't know.
Fair enough.
We don't know.
It depends on whether or not you want to, which scientific theory you like to believe.
That said, it makes sense because, geez, these days have been hot.
So the average global temperature reached 17.01 degrees Celsius, surpassing the previous record of 16.92 degrees Celsius.
Seems so small.
Seems so small, but given the climate, yes, very, very hot. And scientists believe that actually that record is going to be short-lived. It's going to be broken again very soon as El Nino phenomenon has begun, of course, pushing heat to the surface of the Pacific Ocean and, of course, warming up our planet. So records have to remain small in terms of that, so days are only going to get hotter. Good luck, by the way.
I hate to say this, but the domino is, because it's going to be a small thing that affects something, that affects something, that affects something, and then food production, somebody is going to come up short.
It's already coming up short.
And we're going to have another shock. I said this 2 budgets ago, to our national economy, and are we ready for it? I don't think so.
Anyway, before Sean preaches more doom and gloom, do have a great day ahead. If you remember, today is a good day to have a good day.
Hey, there it is.
It's been a long time since you heard it.
Long time.
Anyways, and gentlemen, this has been Talking Points. I'm Keith and Shaw. That's Sean Michael Small. We'll see you again tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. Bye-bye.
WESN.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit?
what is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive, it is not rehabilitative.
We the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole, is for all of us in public.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
As Kevin Hart would say, damn! Why we have so much minors out on the streets? There's an after-school program happening there.
Side women, don't give up. You know, you can become queen one day.
Those companies who are currently looking for their money that they deposited in the Silicon Valley Bank, it's not there. ChatGPT is basically the start of Terminator. Our relationship with the colonial powers is like a relationship with a little bit of abuse that people like to stay in. And we remember how that was. Put in $100 and later tonight, you'll get back 3,000. I promise you. I promise you not. Did you rent an accent while you were across there?
When you're in the proximity of Donald Trump, somehow you adopt his aura.
First of all, I thought the $200 would be more than enough. It's $200.
As a goat farmer, I have 3 goats. Yeah, 3 goats and 1 cow. You know the name?
No, I don't.
Right, Messi, LeBron, and Cristiano Ronaldo. And the cow name Haaland.
I love Trinidad and Tobago, you know.
That's what I mean when I said he tapped into a not-so-thin vein of racism and xenophobia towards these sub-Saharan Africans, and it's gotten worse. So, and since then, basically, that was followed by a crackdown, essentially, on sub-Saharan migrants, and they've been living in varying degrees of fear of the police and this crackdown ever since.
What has been the reaction to this speech?
Well, a lot of the reaction right now is immediately in the speech. He ordered his police, his law enforcement authorities to crack down on illegal migrants in the country. He also ordered them to expel any illegals who are living in Tunisia. And these orders of expulsion have basically led many of the illegal migrants. You know, Tunisia has long been, and especially Sfax, the coastal city, has been sort of a launch pad for migrants who are using Tunisia as a gateway as they desperately try to cross the Mediterranean and get to Italy, mostly Lampedusa, the small Italian island. They go there, making many attempts, often caught by the Coast Guard, turned back. In the wake of this speech last February, in the months since, there has been a surge in the number of migrants who had been living in Tunisia, some legally, some illegally, trying to make that treacherous crossing, often stopped by Coast Guards and pleading with the Coast Guards, please let us go. We don't want to go back to Tunisia. Just let us go back. He doesn't want us. No one wants us in Tunisia. We've been expelled from Tunisia. And this is a situation right now. Those who remain right now, I said that a lot of them have lost their jobs. They've been evicted from their housing. In some cases, they have actually been assaulted on the streets. So when I say that a lot of these illegal migrants following the Kais Saied speech in February are living in fear, it's not an exaggeration. Some won't even leave their house. They stay in their houses lest they go out onto the streets and are stopped by a police or whatever, because they fear the reaction, the consequences.
You mentioned the city of Sfax. Why is it such a flashpoint here?
Because of first of all, its geography. It's a southern coastal city, and it is the departure point for a lot of these migrants who are now making their boats, or they're making cheaper boats now, often out of a cheap metal. And the cost actually of the migration itself has actually gone down in recent months. I was talking about the surge in migration, and they try again and again. But Sfax has traditionally been a place where you had a lot of students coming from sub-Saharan Africa, workers, people who stayed in Tunisia to work for a while. Now, a lot of the time, that's just very brief work, so they could get the money to make that trip across the Mediterranean. But like I said, it has taken on added urgency in the wake of Kais Saied's racialist speech, as the African Union has called it, anti-migrant speech back in February. There really is that sense we have to get out right now. Sfax right now does remain a hub of many of the migrants. Tunisia has 12 million people. There's maybe about 20,000 sub-Saharan migrants in Tunisia. Most of them are in Sfax. It's going to remain a flashpoint and a hotbed, a lot of these tensions and clashes in the weeks and months to come.
Okay, international affairs commentator Doug Herbert. Doug, thanks as always. Well, Israel has withdrawn its troops from the West Bank city of Jenin, but is warning that military action there is likely to continue. This follows the most intense attack by Israel in the occupied territory in 2 decades. 12 Palestinians and an Israeli soldier were killed during the 2-day raid. The Israeli army says it's cracking down on militant groups, while the Palestinian Foreign Ministry has labeled the escalation an open war against the people of Jenin. Vedika Bahal has the latest.
Here in Jenin, residents are clearing up the burnt cars and the rubble that used to make up their homes. All damage left behind after Israel's intense 2-day raid that left several dead and drove thousands from their homes. It was the biggest military operation in the occupied West Bank for years.
It was intense. I was accompanied by around 30 soldiers, and they were all shooting at the camp. It was crazy. You get the feeling that they really want to achieve something within the 2 days, like they're in a hurry before anything happens. They did not get what they wanted, thank God. The youths are fine, the families are fine, and the camp is fine.
Palestinian militants from the Gaza Strip also fired a barrage of rockets towards Israel, which Israel's military claimed were intercepted before retaliated. Israel says its operation in the refugee camp confiscated thousands of militant groups' weapons and materials